Hi, in today's video I'm going to take a look at sending links from Invidious, which is a front end to YouTube without any ads, to MPD, the music player daemon, using Emacs EWW. So what we have here is Emacs WW, which is the built-in web browser, and this is Invidious, which, as I said, is a open source front end to YouTube without any ads, and we're running this in a Docker container. And what I'm going to do is send a link from a video to MPD to play the audio. And the way I was doing this previously was a bit long-winded. What I'd have to do is press W on the keyboard to copy the URL, then press Meta Shift 7 to run async shell command, type in the command pinch-i single quotes, Control Y to paste that in and single quote, and then run it. You'll then see this come up here.
Well, folks, both sides.
Okay, so you can see that that is eventually coming up, and we're getting a little desktop notification here telling us the name of the bit of audio that's being queued up. But that's really long-winded to actually go through that process to send the audio to MPD. It's too many keyboard shortcuts. So what I've done is come up with a bit of code here in my Emacs init.el called EWW pinch, and what this does is it uses a script I wrote called pinch that takes a URL and grabs the audio stream and then uses MPC to send that audio stream to MPD. So what we have here is a function called EWW. It's interactive, and what we're doing is we're grabbing the URL under the cursor point, and then what we're doing is we're running async shell command concat pinch-i, little space there, shell quote argument URL, which is the URL. And then what we're doing is we're binding this to a keyboard shortcut of N. So the new way of doing this is, instead of going through all those keyboard shortcuts, I just press N on the keyboard. What you'll see in a couple of seconds is we'll get a desktop notification.
Well, folks, both sides, both the federal prosecutors and Donald Trump's legal team.
And that now comes up. So one of the issues is, as you could see when I was playing the audio, that's actually going to just display the URL. It's not going to display the title of the audio in MPD, and there isn't actually a way to do that. So that's why I have the desktop notification pop up. And if I come across here and go ednc log, what you'll see is this is the Emacs desktop notification center, and it's given me a list of all the notifications that I've received, so I can see what's actually playing and what's actually being queued up. So simply I can come through here and just press N on the keyboard and queue these bits of audio up. So press N, give it a second or two.
Match day in Manchester as Newcastle.
Okay, that's the first one. I can come through. I want to listen to Prot. Give that a second. You're going to get the notification, and you'll see that second item's been added to MPD there. This is ncmpc, which is a MPD client, which has got Vim key bindings, which is nice. So as I said, all I have to do is come through here, press N on the keyboard, and it's going to queue up any audio from that video link. And I'll have a list of all the notifications here. You can see this is now playing. This is the one that's paused here. This is the first item, and the ones that are queued up are these ones here. So it says the advantage is, because when you're playing the actual links, when you send the links, they're just going to be actual URLs like that, which is no good. So that's why we use the notification, so that we can actually extract the title. So let's actually dig into this a bit more and go through the setup. So there's a couple of bits to this. So bin pinch. So this is the pinch script, which basically works with yt-dlp, and what it does is it actually grabs the audio stream from the link. And what we have up here is this section here, host equals mpd host. So this is the first thing you need to do, actually set your mpd host. So if I come across here, echo, you'll see my host is my username.config mpd socket, and that is configured in .config mpd.conf. You can see here bind to address, and we're using a socket. And the way the socket works is basically it will activate mpd when you sort of interact with it. So using MPC, when you send a link to it or do anything in the client, it activates mpd. So that's the first thing, is to actually set the bind to address in your mpd.config. And what we also need to do is zshenv, where have I got my mpd config? Yep, there we go, down here. So what you do is export mpd_host. You need to put in the full path in your zshenv file. You can't use home or tilde, it won't be expanded. You've got to put in the full path to the socket. And when we set up mpd, what you typically do is actually manually create the socket file with touch. So mpd has a, if I just come across to config mpd, what you'll see here is we have these files: comp, database log, PID, mpt state, playlist, socket, sticker.sql. So when you actually set up mpd, what you do is you manually create these files and then specify to use this socket file here with mpd. So that's the first thing that we do, is actually set up our mpd socket or our host. And then this is the script. Basically, we've got the get ops, and you can see here, if I just zoom it out a bit, this is how we get the audio URL and the title, and we use the title for the desktop notification. So what we're doing here is grabbing the audio stream, getting the link and getting the name, and then actually running this function down here. And what this does is basically checks if the playlist's empty, and if it is, it adds the audio and starts playing it. But if something's playing it, it will queue it up. And then at the end, what we have down here is these sections, notify, send, either now playing or queuing, and then we run the function. So that's how the script works. And the way that we called it from within Emacs is with this block of code. And the important thing here is this async shell command. If you just use shell command, what will happen is Emacs will lock up until you've actually finished running that command. You won't be able to interact with Emacs if you just run shell command until the audio is actually finished, which is no good. So the asynchronous shell command runs it in the background, and it was quite simple to actually figure this bit out. I was already using this top bit of code for something else, so all I had to do was actually work out these two lines here. The first one was using the asynchronous shell command instead of shell command, and then we just run concat pinch, which is the name of the script, and then shell quote argument and then URL. So that makes sure that the URL is actually properly quoted, otherwise it's not going to work. And now the next thing that we actually want to do, if I come down here, it's right down the bottom. Okay, we've also got the MPC host set here in Emacs. Set ncmpc host. This is the section we need down here, shell path. And what this does is this sets MPD up, it sets Emacs up so that it looks in directories in your shell path for binaries. So by default, Emacs is just going to look in places like, user bin, user local bin, sbin, that sort of thing. Whereas I have a bin directory in my home where I keep all my scripts. S bin pinch, you can see that's where the script is located. So what this bit of code does, that I think I got from the Emacs wiki, is it actually looks, as I said, looks in all the directories in your shell path. So if I run echo $path, you can see this is my path here: username bin, local bin, user local bin, user local sbin, user bin, user sbin. And the way we do that is with our zshenv. So this is how you set your path in your zsh config. We have typeset U path, and what that does is that sets it so that your path is unique and doesn't contain any duplicates. Typically, if you're using bash or something and you add stuff to your path, it can sometimes appear twice, and this setting prevents that in zsh. And then what we're doing is we're saying path equals, in double quotes, home bin, home local bin, user local bin, and what it does is it prepends those to the path. And that's useful because you can then have scripts in your bin directory in your home that take precedence over ones installed in the system, and that's sometimes useful if you want to override a binary with your own version of the, with a script with the same name basically. And I used that for things like MPV previously when there were issues with MPV not working on Wayland. You had to set some additional parameters. So that's how you can set your shell path. And they said that's needed so that Emacs can pick up the location of the pinch script, basically. So those are the main things. I don't think there's anything else that's needed for that. Just having a quick scroll through just to check. No, I think that's pretty much it. There's no other sort of settings. So let me just go back to the bottom and scroll up a bit. Okay. Right, so that's the Hydra. So yeah, in previous videos, what I was doing is actually showing you how to integrate MPV with diode and also with EWW. So I've got you've got evil key binding set up for EWW. So if I press L on the keyboard over link, what it does is it opens the video in MPV. But if I press N, it sends the audio to MPD. So that's the MPV EWW section. You can see here, this is the same bit of code as I'm using in the other function. So all we have is define function, the function name here, the description, interactive so that we can call it with metarex, and then let URL. So what that's doing is it's setting a variable called URL, which is going to be equal to shr URL at point current prefix arg, and what that is that's basically the location of the cursor in EWW. We then run async shell command concat, quote the URL, and then set up the key binding. So that's all there is to it. And once we've got that set up, we can just basically come through and we can press L on the keyboard to open the link under the point with MPV full screen on our second display, or if I press N, it's going to send the audio over to MPD. So just press N and click across here. Oh, and it's paused. So,
but before he gets there,
okay, so that's the audio from that. And as you can see here, we've got the desktop notification, and I can just press Q to quit this. And so what that's doing is actually grabbing the URL from the video title, from the video stream using yt-dlp, but there isn't actually a way to set these to actually contain the title. They'll just contain the links. See? So that's why having the ednc log here is quite handy, because we can actually see what's being queued up, what's playing, what's being queued up. So that's how we can grab the links for any video and then send the audio to MPD. And I'm just demoing this with regular videos. Obviously you might want to use it with music videos, but I didn't want to break any copyright laws or have any copyright strikes on YouTube just playing some audio. So that's why I was just using these as a demo. But you can see I can just come through, give it a second, and you can see just because it's paused, it's not.
This video is sponsored by Akamai. A little bit more.
Okay. So that's it. Not much to actually set up. There's a few pieces you need to do to get it working. Set up MPD. Let me just come across to what's. Yeah. Yeah, so usually what you have to do is actually create all the directories. MPD didn't used to follow the XDG specifications, and you had to put it in .mpd in your home directory, but you can now put it in config MPD. Just follow the, I'll bring up the Arch wiki MPD. So have a look through here and it will basically show you, these are the files that you need to create. And as I said, I use a socket rather than systemd. And you just need to set your MPD host as I showed you, and it will get picked up by Emacs and EWW, and you can send the audio to MPD. Now you may be saying, well, there is a MPC client built into Emacs, but the issue is we actually need to use yt-dlp to get the link. You can't just send you can't just play a YouTube link with MPD. It won't work. You've actually got to extract the audio link from that and then send that to the music player daemon so that it can play it. I'll put links to all of that, all this under the video, and that's all for now.